We are going to start off this project by building the root of the project. I think that is the best place to start. It's where I start when I build my projects. I am going to show you guys two different ways to do this because I've gotten a lot of questions and comments on my YouTube channel about this. So in this app, users are basically going to open the app and go through an onboarding flow and then get into the core app. And we want to make sure that we have a separation in our code between the onboarding flow and the core app. So that's kind of what we're going to build now. Before we actually build both of those flows, we're going to build some root routing to switch between those two modules. So in our root section here, let's go ahead and right click and create a new file from template, and it will be a SwiftUI view. And let's just call this our AppView. It will be the first view in our app. It seems like a good name for it. Let's get the preview working. And I'm excited because we actually get to start writing some code now. So at the root of our application is basically two different screens. There's going to be the tab bar after the user is signed in, as well as the onboarding flow, which is when the user is signed out. So we have a signed in and a signed out that is basically true or false. So we can handle that with a Boolean. Let's create an @state private var. Let's call this show tab bar of type bool, and we'll set it equal to false to start. So we'll start by showing the onboarding view. Let's create the simplest screen possible, Z-stack here, and we'll say if show tab bar, then we're going to put something on the screen here. Let's just put some text that says tab bar, and then we'll say else, and we'll say some text, onboarding view. We'll just put onboarding for now. And while we're developing here, let's just add a on tap gesture, and let's call show tab bar dot toggle. So when I tap on this, if I tap on the word, it should switch between these two modules. Let's make these full screens so that we can actually see them. So I'm just going to do a Z stack. Let's do color.red.ignores safe area, and then maybe text on top of that. And let's do the same thing down here. Z stack color blue ignore safe area, and we can switch between these. Obviously this doesn't look good because it's not animating, so maybe we should add some animation here. Let's do smooth, and let's animate on change of show tab bar. Let's see what that looks like. And it animates, but it's animating the opacity. It looks fine, but that's not how most apps do it. In most apps, when you sign in from onboarding to the tab bar, it either pushes to the left or to the right or something like that. So what we're going to do is on the tab bar, we'll do a transition here, and we will .move from the trailing edge. So it should come in from the right side of the screen. Let's check that out. That works. But we also want the onboarding to push off the left side of the screen when that happens. So let's copy and paste that onto the onboarding, and let's make this leading. And just like that, we have some animation between our two modules. Before we move forward here, I do just want to throw out one other way that I see a bunch of apps doing this these days. This is the approach that we're going to do, and this is the general approach that I think most apps probably should have. But I do see some SwiftUI apps using a sheet instead. So you guys don't have to copy this code because I'm going to undo it in 1 second. But some apps will do something like this, where they'll just always have the tab bar in the background. And then let's cut this. And then they'll do a sheet with maybe like a @state private var show onboarding view of type bool equals false. Bind to the show onboarding view, put in your onboarding view here, and then maybe on appear you have some logic, check if the user is not signed in, and then show onboarding view equals true. And so then maybe it's a full screen cover instead actually. So it's something like this. Now, with this setup, it works. It makes your code really clean because you didn't have to manage this transition yourself. This is a native SwiftUI full screen cover. But some companies and employers aren't going to like the fact that the tab bar flashes and then it appears. So if I do this really quickly, you can see that the red a little bit and then it appears. So you can imagine that every time your app opens, you get a flash of the tab bar and then it pops up on top of it. That is fine for most apps and, sample apps and apps with no users. But generally, I think that the other approach is a little bit better. So let's revert back to our if show tab bar, And then we'll do else show onboarding flow. I just wanted to show you guys quickly how to do that because I get a lot of people asking me how to manage this flow specifically. So our animation is working, but as a developer, as I build this app now, I start to think that this is something that I probably want to do on more than just this app. The next time I build an app, I probably want to do basically the same thing, right? I want to have a show tab bar Boolean with an onboarding flow and a tab bar flow. I do that in most of the apps that I make these days. So I want to try to make this screen right here a little bit more reusable. I know it's already pretty reusable, but we're coupled right now to this specific screen. So you can imagine if I copied and pasted this to another app and I actually had my different screen in here, my other app's not going to have that screen. So let's try to decouple the actual screen from the logic of showing the tab bar. What I'm going to do is create another struct, and I will call this the AppView builder. And let's make it a view as well, and we'll add a body. In the body of this view, I'm going to basically just put the exact same code. I'll just copy, let's copy the animation to the Z stack. I'm not going to do the tap gesture. Paste it up here. I'm going to copy the show tab bar and let's paste it here. I'm not going to make it at state because I'm going to handle the state in my actual app view and not in the view builder. And then in the view builder now, I want to decouple the view, this view, not the transition, but the view from the view builder. So we're going to use a view builder now to inject a random view. So let's create an @view builder here, a variable called tab bar view. The tab bar view will be some view, just some view. We don't know what view it is. Now we can't use some view in the initializer here because it has to be a specific type. What we can do is inject a view when we create the app view builder. So in the declaration of the app view builder, let's create something called a tab bar view. And then this view builder will return us a tab bar view. Now, if we try to put the tab bar view on the screen, so if I delete this and put tab bar view here, the compiler is going to yell at us because it doesn't know that the tab bar view is actually a view. So let's declare that the tab bar view is actually something that conforms to the view protocol. We're going to do the exact same thing for the onboarding view. So I'll make this the onboarding view, and this will be called the onboarding view. And let's declare again, this is an onboarding view, which is something that conforms to the view protocol. Let's put the onboarding view on the screen here. So now let's try to use the app view builder from our code. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to actually add an app view builder, and we'll hold the option button and click enter on this third completion here. Let's triple click and control M to put these on multiple lines. For the show tab bar view, we'll pass in the value from the state in this view. For the tab bar view, we now have a function that returns a view. This is a view builder. So if you don't know what view builder is, or if you don't understand generics, I will put links below to videos on my YouTube channel where I cover these topics in detail. This is a good point where if you're already confused about what these are doing, go watch those videos. It'll explain everything that you need to know about what view builder is actually doing. But for show tab bar view, on this closure, I'm going to actually click enter. Now, if I undo that quickly, you'll see that the word show tab bar view, it's here, which is actually really helpful to me as I build out this screen. But once I click enter, it disappears. And now it's kind of confusing of what this closure is actually supposed to be. So what I'm going to do, instead of just clicking enter on these closures, I'm going to actually open the brackets myself. So shift, open brackets, and click enter. And this way I can keep the text here. So shift, open brackets. And I'm going to do that basically throughout the entire course because I really do like having this, even though it's a little bit extra code, it's much easier to read when I actually see the names of these parameters. I think I spelled onboarding wrong, so let's fix that quickly. Cool. I'm going to put my tab bar view in this closure. I'm going to put my onboarding view in this closure. I'm going to delete this because we don't need it anymore. And now this should be working perfectly. All right, let's move the app view builder to its own file. So we're actually gonna have a couple views now that revolve around the app view. So next to the root, I'm gonna create another folder up here that's called the app view. And I'm going to move the app view into the app view folder. And then I'm going to copy, or actually let's cut the app view builder. A really cool thing about the new versions of Xcode is if I click over here and I just paste, it will actually create a file with the name of the code that I copied or cut. So in here, let's import SwiftUI. Down here, let's create a preview for this code. So let's put the app view builder on the screen here. What I'm going to do is actually go to the app view as we have it now, and I'm going to just copy this code here. I'm going to copy the whole app view. Let's go into the app view builder and paste it here. I'm going to make this a file private struct, and then let's call this a preview view and put the preview view on the screen here. All right, I guess Swiftlint made this private, not file private, but I'm making it private because I want this to be specific to this file and no other file should have access to this struct here. So the preview view of our app view builder is now working. I think it's working exactly as expected. Before we move forward, I want to talk a little bit about just the high level architecture, how SwiftUI views and how declarative programming works. So as we go through this course, I'm going to periodically open up a FigJam and jump into that. FigJam is like Figma for prototyping. So here I have the FigJam as it is now, and it's super simple. I promise you this is going to get way more complex. But I want to just point out the nature of declarative programming. A lot of you guys already know this, but I want to just go through it because this is going to be a theme throughout the entire course. When you have declarative programming, it literally means that one view is going to be declared before the next view. So in order to get to this view has to first compile. And so in our app right now, we have the app view builder, and then there is the tab bar view, and then the onboarding view. And it's quite literally the exact same as this diagram right here. It's the parent view, and then the child view, and the child view. But in SwiftUI, if I even go down to the basics, if I were to make a new screen, like our content view here, and I just made a VStack with text hi and text hello. The way this renders is that this is a parent view, and then inside there are two children. This is a child and this is a child. And if I put a bunch of these on the screen, these are all children of the parent view. And so even though it's all in the same file, this in itself is still declarative. This is still in the same structure and format as this, where it's one view going to the next view. And if you really think about it, all of your screens in SwiftUI are going to end up like this, and then maybe there's VStacks within VStacks within VStacks within VStacks. And what you end up with is essentially just a massive tree diagram. So you end up with another view, and then another view, and then another view. I'm not going to draw the arrows, but you can see how the tree diagram is going to end up playing out. It's basically this iterated at a larger scale. So I just want to point that out as we start building out our architecture, because it's important now to know that when we're in our onboarding view, we are in a different module. We're in a different view hierarchy than our tab bar view. And that's going to be a theme as we continue throughout this app. So I'm going to undo this quickly. The last thing I'm going to do before we end this video is just jump into the app view. And what I'm going to do is actually remove the tap gesture, because obviously our actual app is not going to have a tap gesture to sign in. It's going to be way more logic that we have to write. So I'll remove this tap gesture. And for now, I'm just going to delete the word private here so that we can inject a value for true or false for show tab bar. So show tab bar, if in my preview here, I should now be able to say show tab bar. And if we have true, I think tab bar will show. And if we have false, tab bar will not show. And I can even make this two previews. Let's say tab bar, and let's call this actually the app view tab bar. And we'll do one more app view onboarding. Show tab bar true. So I have these two versions of my preview here. Lastly, let's try to save the state for this. So when we actually build our app, we want to save if the user is already signed in. So we don't want to restart with true or false every time. And we can use @app storage, and we'll give it a key here of show tab bar view. And let's reload and see if that works. And cool. All right, that's it for this video. We're going to build on this further as we continue the course, but at least we got our route set up and we can switch between the tab bar view and the onboarding view. Let's end the video by committing this. So I'm going to Option Command C. Let's make this a feature, and we'll say add AppView and AppView Builder. Let's go ahead and stage and commit, and we will push this up to GitHub. That's all for this one. See you guys in the next video.